Grade 2's Miss Jackson here. I'm just going to quickly run you through the process of making our cinnamon pinwheel biscuits. So the first thing you need is your ingredients. In this bowl I have my 2 cups of flour. I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of baking powder, a half teaspoon of baking soda, and a half teaspoon of salt. And I'm just going to give that a really quick mix up. Then I'm going to add my butter. So the butter I've taken and I've cut it up into little tiny pieces, and it's really cold. I just pulled it out from the fridge, so I'm going to dump that in. And then you have 2 options. You can use a pastry knife, which is this, and you just take that and you push it in to separate the butter into smaller chunks. If you don't have this fancy tool, then what you can use is 2 knives, and that works just fine as well. So I'm going to take a moment and just cut all of that butter up into little tiny chunks. So this is what it should look like when you're all done. I have a few chunks of butter that are a little bit bigger than what I probably want, but for the most part it kind of looks like oatmeal-sized chunks. So just smaller chunks. This makes our pastry nice and flaky. The key here is really just not to heat it up. So you don't want to get your hands in there and melt that butter. You want to keep it nice and cold. When that's done, you're going to add your buttermilk or yogurt. I had some yogurt in my fridge, so I decided to use that. So I'll add that in, and I'm going to give it a good mixing. So I've mixed this up and it kind of looks like it's forming a ball, which means it's at the stage that I'm happy with it and it's done. So I'm going to put some flour on my working surface, and I'm going to dump my dough onto that floured surface. So just a bit of flour, and I'll make sure I have everything out of the bowl. And just like when we made bread, we're going to knead it together just a little bit. So you're just wanting to make sure that everything is combined and together in your pastry, your biscuit. So just a few kneads, and then I have my nice ball. And then I'm going to re-flour my surface again. Just make sure I get that flour all over. I'm going to place my ball in the middle, put some flour on my rolling pin, and I'm going to roll out my dough. So the measurements that I need are 25 centimeters wide, 35 centimeters long, and half a centimeter thick. So that's going to take a little bit of time, so I'm going to roll it out and I'll see you in a moment. So I just finished rolling out my dough and I measured it. It is 35 centimeters long. I measured that with a ruler. It's 25 centimeters wide. Actually, it's 26, but I'm happy with that. It looks pretty close to a rectangle, which I'm also happy with. And when I tested the width, it's about half a centimeter everywhere. So that means I'm ready for the next step. Okay, so I've given my butter a really quick melt in the microwave, and it's now pretty much fully liquid. So what I'll do is I'll brush that over the entire thing. So you can even just dump it on and then spread it evenly over your whole biscuit dough. When the butter's fully coated everything, you're going to take your cinnamon sugar mixture, and I also added a little bit of cardamom to mine. So if you wanted to add a little bit more flavor, you could add cardamom or nutmeg, or just leave it as cinnamon sugar. And mix that up really well and sprinkle it on. Now, you have to be careful because you don't want it to be on the outer edge. That will make it really hard for it to roll together nicely. So I'm going to leave a chunk on both of the long edges that won't have the cinnamon sugar. So I've dumped my cinnamon sugar on. Now I'm bringing it all the way to the edges on the short sides. I'm not quite going to the edge on the long sides, and I'm just making sure my sugar is everywhere on here. When that's done, it's time to roll up your dough. So you're just going to slowly take it and roll it. I like to start at one end, work my way to the other end, and then come back again. And I kind of do a roll and tuck. So roll and tuck, roll and tuck, and you're just going to roll it all the way up. And when you reach the end, what I like to do is to just fold it over and give it a light squish. So fold and squish, fold and squish, all the way to the end. And then you have your log. So that's my biscuit log with the cinnamon sugar inside. So the recipe suggests waiting about a half hour before you cut into it and just putting it in the fridge. I'm just gonna test out a chunk and see if it's worth doing that process. Okay, so mine worked out really well. I can tell that I have a nice dough shape. So I'm actually happy with that. I'm not gonna bother putting it in the fridge for a half hour to let it set. I'm just gonna cut all of mine now. So I'm looking at this and it says about 2 centimeters. So if you really wanted to, you could get your ruler out and cut 2 centimeter chunks of dough. So there we go. That's about 2 centimeters. And this is about 2 centimeters. And you'll just cut your biscuit into 2 centimeter chunks. See if you can figure out how long our dough was. So 35 centimeters. And we're cutting it into 2 centimeter chunks. So how many pieces do you think you should get out of it? We'll see. So I've cut up my dough. I managed to get 16 biscuits, which is pretty much what you should have been able to get. So that's perfect. It means I was pretty close to 2 centimeters with all of my cuts. Now I'm going to take my tray, baking tray, and I've covered it in parchment paper just to make it a little bit easier for cleanup later. And I'm just going to put my biscuits on here. And I'll give them enough room because they might grow a little bit, but they shouldn't grow too much. Then I will pop them into my 400-degree oven and wait for them to be done cooking. I just turned around and I noticed the giant mess that is on my island. So I know that I have to do this cleanup. Kids, make sure you are helping your parents with this, or your older sibling, or whoever helped you make your biscuits. You are in charge of cleanup as well. Do not leave it for an adult. So I finished my cleanup and the oven is going off. It's been 11 minutes. I'm gonna check on my biscuits. So they are actually looking pretty close to done. I can see that they're a nice golden brown color. They look fully cooked inside. I'm gonna actually call that finished, so I'm gonna pull them out of the oven now. I've pulled them out of the oven. I tested one to see how it is, and they are delicious. So just wait for them to cool down a bit before you serve them. They are better if served warm. I hope you enjoy, and let us know what you think and how yours turned out too.